Yes, Impactors, welcome back to Online Impact, week number 6. Now, about halfway through this video, I'm going to open the Bible and we're going to have a little think about isolation. But the first half of this video, we're going to think about what happened last week and what's going to happen next week. So last week on Tuesday at 7 o'clock, we had the Bible Reading Club. It's just a group of us who want to try and read our Bibles more during this lockdown time. Along the way, we're trying to learn a bit more about God's character and trying to pray that what we read would be shaping our day. But also we're picking up a few tips and tricks for Bible reading. If you go to the website impactyouth.co.uk and click on the Bible Reading Club, there is like the list of readings, just daily reading. For example, this week we've been looking mainly at Matthew 8 and Matthew 9. At 7:30 on Tuesday, we had the social where we played a couple of kind of grab and go games. The first game we played, we found the most random item in our house. And then we had to either describe it truthfully or describe it falsely. And everyone else had to guess whether that person was truthfully describing it or falsely describing it. That's a real word. Falsely. Now that game was okay, but the better game was when we went and found an item and hid it from everyone. Then what we had to do was try and describe what the item looked like, and everyone else kind of drew it blind. That one was a load of fun, and I will forever now know this as not a screwdriver, but a dippy rectangle. So next week on Tuesday, those two things are going to happen again. The Bible Reading Club is going to be at 7 o'clock on Zoom. Come and join us, you're more than welcome. And then at 7:30, we're going to have the midweek social where we all hang out and have some fun together. It'd be great to see you there. So last week I set you the challenge to write a haiku, and the haiku had to be along the themes of life after lockdown. With those haikus that we've shared, I'm going to keep them. I'm going to put the best ones on the website, impactyouth.co.uk, with something else next to it. Ooh. That something else comes from this week's challenge of the week. So this week's challenge of the week is called the This Is Me Challenge. Now, we're used to seeing each other every single week on a Friday night. And although we're kind of seeing each other on Zoom, it's not the same, right? Everyone's pixelated, we're all in small little boxes. The Wi-Fi is dropping out left, right and centre, and we're all left just kind of frozen. Did I get you? Come on. Did I get you? Come on, you know I did. Basically, Zoom doesn't cut it. So, the This Is Me Challenge is all about you creating a self-portrait of yourself. Now, you can go old school with this, right? Pencil, pen, paper, draw your own self-portrait, or you can go a little bit more abstract. Maybe use different things to create a self-portrait of you that kind of is, abstract. I'm thinking cereal boxes, I'm thinking grass for your hair, I don't know, those sort of things. You guys are way better at this than me. And next week, the best self-portrait will win the This Is Me Challenge. Okay, grab a Bible and turn to Psalm 63. If you've not got a Bible, don't worry, I'm going to throw the words up on the screen. But Psalm 63 is a psalm of David, and he wrote it at a time when he was in the wilderness in Judah. He's the king, but he's been sent out into the wilderness in hiding because his life is threatened. And here he is, all alone in the middle of the nowhere. But it's a great psalm. There are many differences between me and you and David and this situation that he's in. But one thing that David would definitely be feeling is isolation. He's got no idea where he is. He's all alone. And this psalm is going to help us to understand how he responds to God at times like this. Now, that theme of isolation is exactly what we're feeling, right? And it will vary in different levels. There'll be some of you guys who are literally on your own. Maybe your mum and dad are working at the same time and it's just you. School for you is an opportunity to go and see everyone else. At home, you're all on your own. For others of you, you will have your family around you, and in one sense, you'll be less isolated. But also in another sense, you'll be really isolated when you're arguing, when you're at each other's throats and you just want your space, but you kind of can't have it. And at that point, when you're on your own in your room and you're thinking, oh man, like I just wish I could go and talk to my friend about this. Go and be with different people for just a little bit of time. And of course we can't do that. At times like this, where there can be lots of sickness and lots of death as well, sometimes it's really helpful just to sit with someone in the canteen, right? To go and play football out on the field and just kind of forget about it for a minute. But in isolation, we can't do that. We can try and do it through Zoom, we can try and do it through texts, WhatsApps or DMs, but it just doesn't quite get it. That's the feeling of isolation that I'm trying to narrow down on when we're thinking about this passage. Knowing that all of us in some way, shape or form feel isolated at this time. And so it's helpful to look at Psalm 63 with all of that in mind. What does David do when he is all isolated in the wilderness? Well, I'm just going to read the first 4 verses to start with. And then I'm going to pull out 3 things for us to spot that David says about God. Psalm 63, a psalm of David when he was in the wilderness of Judah. O God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. My soul thirsts for you, my flesh faints for you, as in a dry and weary land where there is no water. So I have looked upon you in the sanctuary, beholding your power and glory, because your steadfast love is better than life. My lips will praise you. So I will bless you as long as I live. In your name I will lift up my hands. So 3 quick things I want to tell you about from this psalm. The first thing is, see what David calls God. Verse 1, O God, you are my God. If you are trusting God, if you call yourself a Christian, then the God of the entire universe is your God. He's my God. And we can go to him. That's what David does. Earnestly I seek you. When we realise that God is our God, that God is my God, that makes us want to go to him quickly, eagerly, earnestly, seeking him. That's the first thing. I can call God my God, and so can you too if you're trusting in him. Secondly, we need God. Look at verse 1 again. David says, my soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you. Body and soul need God. That's really helpful to know at times of isolation, just like David was in right here. When we feel like we really need something or really need someone, God is telling us that really what we need is him. And we can think that really what we need is 1,000,001 other things. But at times of trouble, it really helpfully shows us that what we need most is God. But that's great because we can go to him, right? He is our God. Firstly, God is your God if you are trusting him. Secondly, you really need God. And at times of isolation and trouble, those times we see it clearest. And thirdly, which is probably the thing that stands out to me the most, is when the psalmist says, your steadfast love is better than life. David says that at this time of desperate need, there is nothing else. There is no sunset, there is no person, there is no situation, there is nothing that could compare in life to God's steadfast love. And if you cannot grasp that the steadfast love of God is better than life, then it will be hard to feel any of those things afterwards. It will be hard to feel so satisfied in your soul like a lovely meal. It will be hard to praise God with joy on our lips. It will be hard to see how God has been helping us through times. And it will be hard to sing for joy under his wings. But if we can grasp something of this steadfast love that is better than life, then that will really help us in times of isolation, just like it did with David. So if this week you're struggling with isolation, or maybe you just read verse 3 and you say, it's hard to say that the steadfast love of God is better than life, then what I want you to do is I want you to read some of the Gospels. And I want you to look particularly at Jesus on the cross. Because it is at the cross where we see the steadfast love of God in all of its amazing glory. At the cross, Jesus doesn't die because he thinks that you are lovable. He doesn't die because he thinks that you are worth it. No, he dies when you've got nothing to your name. He sees that you are weak, that you are desperate, and that you are in need of saving. And with no redeeming qualities about you, he goes to the cross to redeem you, to buy you back. Romans 5 verse 6, 7 and 8 put it brilliantly. For while we were still weak, at the right time Christ died for the ungodly. For one will scarcely die for a righteous person, though perhaps for a good person one would dare even to die. But God shows his love for us, in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. While you were an enemy to God, he showed you that steadfast love of Jesus dying on the cross for you. The steadfast love of God is seen in its glory as Christ dies on the cross for his people. In verse 9, 10 and 11, David goes on to talk about how justice will come to those who destroy his life. And that's true. One day the Lord Jesus will come again and justice will be served to all. Everything bad will be done away with, even isolation. But until that day, we do verse 8. My soul clings to you, your right hand upholds me. Cling to Jesus and the cross and trust that he will hold you up in this time of need. Okay guys, I hope that Psalm 63 will help and encourage you this week. In a minute we're going to go back over to Zoom and have discussion groups. I realise that at this time there might be lots of questions that are going through your mind. Maybe it's stuff to do with everything that's happening in the world, maybe it's stuff to do with some of the teaching that we've had. And so that's why I want to bring back the big question night. Now, if you come to Impact regularly, you'll know that kind of once or twice a term, we have a night where we kind of just throw out some questions and me and the other leaders try our best to answer them from the Bible. And so in 2 weeks' time, I'd love to have a big question night at Impact on Friday night. On the website at impactyouth.co.uk, there's a little section on the homepage that says the big question. If you click that link, it will send you to a form and you can type in your question. So if you've got a question for the big question night in 2 weeks' time, go to the website, put it in. Remember, on Tuesday next week at 7 o'clock, we've got the Bible Reading Club, and at 7:30, we've got the midweek social. So come and join us for that. It'd be great to see you there. Don't forget your self-portraits, the challenge. Don't forget it. That's it for this week on the YouTube video. I'll see you over in Zoom in just a moment. Take care guys, and I'll see you in the next video next week.